Hello, I'm Lance Dixon, and welcome to week 24 of the Sharing the Light broadcast. I want to speak to you a little bit about a subject that we briefly touched upon last week. Last week, we spoke about sharing the light. How do you go about doing so? How do you help others share their light and support that? But we also talked a little bit about the word discernment. Now, I feel that discernment is a topic that needs a whole lot more discussion. So this week, we're going to focus on discernment. What exactly is discernment? Well, a lot of it depends on the perspective that you embrace. From a believer's perspective, a biblical perspective, people look at discernment quite differently than if you're not a believer or dealing with biblical concepts. Many times when people hear the term discernment, they focus mainly on the biblical perspective, and those who don't embrace it don't want to deal with it. They don't even tend to acknowledge it. What exactly is discernment? It's a powerful ability. It's an ability we all have. Now, how do we look at that ability? Well, as I said, there are a couple different perspectives. There's a biblical perspective and a non biblical perspective. I'm going to embrace both perspectives. Before I go into digging into discernment, I'm going to ask the question, why do we need it? Why is it necessary to have this ability? Well, in the world that we live in, we have access to so much information. We hear many voices, and these voices have different opinions. They have different agendas. They're not all positive, and they're not all going towards your best interests. So, discernment is necessary so that you can kind of distinguish between what's legitimate, what's not legitimate, what's true, and what's not true. So let's go into the definition of discernment. Let's talk about the non biblical definition. Discernment is the capacity to perceive, judge, and understand situations, people, and information with clarity and depth, going beyond surface level observations to make thoughtful, accurate assessments. Now, that's a mouthful. In essence, it's the ability to distinguish between what's true and false, relevant and irrelevant, beneficial and harmful. Now, this has nothing to do with biblical scripture or anything. This is just a very practical definition of discernment. Now, when you go into a biblical perspective, we focus more on how God provides discernment. I think we all have discernment to a certain extent, but there are levels to everything. Let's use strength, for example. A person can be naturally strong. They can have strength. They can do things. But then when you look at being infused by God, that level increases. Thus, we have people like Samson who has strength beyond what's normal. We believe that God cannot just give you discernment, but increase that level of discernment to a point where it goes beyond what the average person has. Now, that's kind of the biblical perspective. Now, in our resources, we're going to send you two different concepts of discernment, one from a non biblical perspective, one from the biblical perspective. And I encourage you to review both of them and make your own decisions. But basically, when we talk about discernment, we're talking about the ability to kind of judge what's real and what's not real. And that's important in today's society. Discernment from a historical standpoint, Aristotle talked about it as the ability to make the right decisions at the right time. So we need that in today's society because we hear so many voices that are trying to influence us and trying to get us to do things, whether they're good things or not. All of these voices are sharing information with us and trying to influence us. And the problem is that even with the negative stuff, the things that are not legitimate, they come to you in a manner that makes you consider it. It sounds like it's legitimate. It sounds like it's real. Without discernment, without going about discerning what is being said to you, you can make a decision that's bad and can be detrimental to your well being. How do we develop the ability of discernment? Well, there are a lot of ways. One of the ways is not accepting things at face value. Now, last week I talked about We must have an attitude that we're open to new ideas, new perspectives. We can't assume that everybody that we're not familiar with is out to take advantage of us. We can't have that attitude, but we still need to do our due diligence. And what is our due diligence? Well, part of that due diligence is not necessarily accepting things at face value. I never want to make a decision right at that moment. If no one is giving you the ability to think about it, that is a red flag to me. I'm not doing that. They want you to make that decision based on what they told you, not based on the fact that you verified it, not based on the fact that you decided after discussion with other people that, yes, this is a good thing. They want you to make that decision then and there. And once you make that decision, it's not like you can take it back. So part of that is always to give yourself time to research what has been shared with you. The information has been presented to you so that you don't make a bad decision. What are some red flags that aid you in your discernment? Don't decide on the spot. Take the time to think. You have to take the time to research. Who else has spoken about this? Is this a brand new thing? What's the basis for it? Everything has a foundation. So, can you figure out what the foundation is of the information that's being presented to you? If you can't find a foundation for that information, that's another red flag. That's part of discernment, having information, comparing information, all of these things that you need to do to make sure that you're making a decision that can distinguish between what's accurate, what's inaccurate, what's good, what's bad, deceptive, or not deceptive. Discernment is a very important ability that we all need in today's society. All right, what's going on this week? Well, Father's Day is coming up, and the Fatherhood Essentials course is still available at the discount. The discount is available until Father's Day. This course would be helpful to fathers, especially fathers who may be struggling. If you know a father who is struggling, it is a great, great resource to give them for Father's Day. But even if you're not struggling, if you just want to become a better father, this course can help. As I said last week, this course was designed for the separated father, the father who's dealing with fighting to be in his children's lives. But there are other things in this course that can be helpful to all fathers. So check it out. Well, that's pretty much all I have for this week. This is Lance Dixon signing out.